separate video. So I do this thing where if I digress and talk with someone very, very clearly, right, for a really long time, I go at least an hour long. So just to give you a breakdown, I do this regularly. When something becomes interesting and that person shows that they're willing to talk about it or discuss about it, it goes at least an hour long. So then I can, like, you know, kind of edit it out and then remember it so I don't forget. I love to preserve discussions, and one day, maybe in 5 years, that person and myself would reflect upon that. And it's awesome because human beings age, and when they age, their perspective changes. And the reason why I record what I say, just largely to myself most of the time, is that I want to see how much that changed over time. And if anyone else think about those things in the moment, then I would love to see how their perspective change in another 5 years. I think that is one of my favorite things about content creation. And you can do it too, you know, within your own comfort zone. It doesn't even have to be public, right? It doesn't have to be public. You can go to the mirror, put up your phone, and pick the mirror. And then one day you can choose to use it or not. The idea is like, hey, how do you feel today? Well, I have these thoughts, A and B. You know, we just got a new car today, that kind of thing. Memory is fluid. And one way to really celebrate memory is recording it. It doesn't have to be a video. It can be a journal. It can be a music collection. It can be any type of collection, a bottle cap collection. Because bottle cap collections have time and length and stories attached to them. For me, I'm just doing it literally for some part of my time. So generally, like 4 hours of the day, I want to record myself change over time. And then if anyone else is interested, they join in the journey. Or they will see how they have changed over time, right? What is the biggest way to self-improve most accurately? Is to see what you were before, right? To resonate with you, to like tug on that lifebloat, that life string, right? It's hard to remember what you're like if the present you is everything that includes the past. One thing you can do is record and write to the best of your ability. It also helps you express and communicate your stuff too. There's a lot of benefits, in my opinion, a lot of useful tools you can develop by writing and expressing to yourself over time, taking a measure of it, and then in the future, whenever someone comes up, it's like, hey, what'd you do in the last 3 months? Immediately, you've already done it. It's part of the practice. It's journal keeping. What some of the aspects of some of the most successful people organize their thoughts. They organize what they remember, not to try to remember exactly what it was. It's just to keep an accounting of the things you've done. Remind yourself that when you leave something behind, it's still a part of you. It led you to the next thing in those situations, because switching is hard. It becomes less hard when you know you can literally see yourself changing and switching all the time. So tomorrow, you know, in today's day 12, in another 18 days, I'm probably going to take a break from this for another month or two or something, because I'm going to start learning a new language or 2 new languages. That the reason why I need to learn them is because I actually don't know how to read, right? I'm illiterate. So that's kind of the thing. And doing all of this it removes the thing that you don't have control over, which is someone telling you if you're doing the right thing, someone telling you if you're doing the wrong thing, a system telling you if you're successful or not. Instead, it also offers an extra thing where you can tell yourself you've done a lot of things. You can use a lot of things. You yourself, your past self, can inspire your future self quite literally. It's just an extra tool. So you're milking your life as well as other people's lives. Not just other people's lives, just maximizing your time. So for me, it's never worthless or a waste of time to stop, breathe, and talk to someone about things. And how do I capture that time? Like this. At least I choose to do it this way. I would say the most common is to start a journal. And what I mean is not just like the I had breakfast today and stuff. Some people do like workout journals, you know, like I lifted X amount of weight and stuff today or something, or they take food journals. It's like, oh yeah, I went to this restaurant today, and then tomorrow I want to go to this restaurant, and then you find out. So that type of thing. If you already expressed to me that you love seeing yourself improve progressively and consistently, add on to that. Add even more things. Like what I mean is not like the literal task, but make those things even better. Even better. Like start a Discord channel with you or a few friends or just yourself and type in what you do each day. And then maybe one day one of your friends saw you like it's day 400 and you did this thing at this time. Your friend, it's gonna be a talking point. Your friend's gonna say like, dude, man, way to go. You've been doing this for 400 days. You know what? I started doing something for 100 days. You wanna talk about it? Right now you're going to be, right now you're not convinced of what? Not saying that I won't ever do. Oh, about the documenting thing? Yeah. You're 18. You have plenty of time. Like, when things don't seem overwhelming, you won't need to do it. I don't think the urgency to document things come up until there's an overwhelming pressure to keep track of things. I think you're incredibly healthy and you understand how to manage that. The skill of documenting things is as someone grows older, maybe into mid-20s. Yeah. Once things become overwhelming, just think about this moment, in my opinion. It's so rewarding and wonderful, and it might actually help you with your mental state and sustainability. It's definitely not something you pick up right away or want to do immediately because it's hard, right? You need to come up with a workflow and stuff like that. But keep it in the back of your head, like you said before, you know, keep it in the back of your mind. It's really fun. One thing I will try to express why this is fun to me, or why this is so rewarding to me. It's not necessarily fun. It doesn't have to be fun. It's very rewarding to me is because every day I know I'm adding to something. Every day I'm adding to something about myself. And I'm making it so that every day I might get the chance to inspire someone else to start doing the same thing. It doesn't matter if I only talk to them once. If they go off and do this, all I can rest assured knowing is they love it too. If they are super busy doing, like, if we don't ever interact again, like for example, you and me never interact again, all I can know, my optimism says that you are busy enjoying your life and being happy. Occasionally, maybe our interest lines up again, and then we'll share, you know, an experience together or something, like indirectly. If we don't, I'm always happy knowing that you're too busy, right? Too busy enjoying life. At least that's me. I'm a very romantic person when it comes to not seeing someone again. I always like to imagine them just so busy that I can only be happy for them. Yeah, that's also, you know, coming from someone who's 36 years old, very secure with their life, spend most of their time learning, right? So it's have to take it with a grain of salt. I have to tell you what my background is. I'm highly educated, right? I spend most of my time learning about how to teach people how to cope with things. So naturally, I would need a lot of skills and experience with coping with various obstacles. And it sounds very, you know, mechanical or flowy most of the time. Like I'm doing it on it. I'm not doing this on the spot because my background is I do that most of the time. I typically focus on how to get people out of a tough situation, and not a tough situation in the literal mechanics of the tough situation. How to get them to pull themselves up, enable them to rise to the occasion. That's my main concern most of the time. So a lot of times it deals with doing the literal thing. So yeah, I totally had a 40 by 30 millimeter surface area. I did the little thing that you were describing about using your fingers, right? Using your fingers to aim, as opposed to like a combination or even more than that. So I like, it was my fingers were like on the tip, like it'd be like this, and it was barely moving. Like it was, and then we stopped doing that. So then a tapping changed completely too. That sudden change, it's always in the back of my mind, you know? The flow of the conversation has to come back. So if you want to remember things, you got to connect all the things. It helps with remembering things all the time. So I'm always constantly trying to connect back. So it reinforces. It's easier to remember things then. It's permanently associated. We don't forget things. Try not, you know, that's the true, that's my go-to method of making everything significant to at least a person that I'm talking to. Because where the conversation started is about Os, right? I don't want to forget all the things that we talked about and covered. So they all are like, it's like a web as opposed to like a big circle. Just lots of webs. So they're all locked in. Kind of like the way your brain works. The neurons. You gotta activate all those neurons. Alright. Now we're gonna do the descent. And then put Os to rest for today. So. Alright. This is gonna be rough. Yeah, we're looking at like 170 right now, so we'll do this. It's not too much. What I mean is, it's not too much mentally. We're not focused on mechanics. We're focusing on keeping our fingers moving. Oh, okay. Yeah, we gotta move our fingers again. It's been way too long. Usually I have the digressions at the end of the practice, but you know, it's fine. You look at stamina as actually tapping stamina? What else can it mean? So if I don't get like 99, I don't consider it being enough? I do have someone who thinks like you. You might actually know him. Possibly. But there is a person I know that's his outlook on things. He's a consistency player. Sunray. I think you can definitely empathize with him. So if you're ever interested in, I don't know where you are in your Osu journey, but when it comes to what you just described, that's him in a nutshell. You don't even know yourself? It sounds like sometimes it might be okay to reflect on that. Depends what measure I use. Well, I definitely, if you're talking to me about what metric I use, it's probably nothing you have considered. However, your metrics, I think I understand where your metrics are. Especially that last comment about not getting 99 act being an example of tapping stamina. That's really something that I wouldn't connect those two. Like, here's one. So hack is constantly a struggle unless you're practicing enough. My main is hard rock, so hack is a constant struggle unless you're practicing enough. I can see that. I disagree, but I can see that. Yeah, that seems very sound. Struggle is in the mind of the beholder. Act isn't a struggle to me because you have to contextualize what you're trying to strive for, right? So for myself, not really. But for you, I can see why you would like hard rock. I'm not struggling right now because I have to contextualize that I haven't been tapping at all when we were talking, right? And I'm looking for something specific, which is not shown on screen. It would be really interesting to figure out if anyone could see what I was looking for. That's just an icing on the cake, though. I'm not really asking people to show perception, you know, like read my mind or something. You can probably see some of it from all the other days, though. What I'm looking for at the moment. Especially this part, where you have to ramp up to a speed and then drop down and then use form. Have I ever tried mapping? I haven't. I might try mapping in the future because we're an OS laser, right? So there might be an opportunity to do some mapping just out of interest, not anything else, just seeing what the mapping is like. Because the OS laser client is different. I haven't done anything with a stable version either. So it'd be very, very interesting, fresh take. The sliding placing? Oh, I seen the slider placing thing, yeah, in laser. I did see that though. I looked at other people mapping a little bit, and they were talking about like the adjustment between OS stable and OS laser. The slider thing is pretty awesome. It's very, like, you can do so much with it. Especially compared to OS stable. It's just kind of counterintuitive. Interesting. Have you used OS stable for mapping before you use OS laser? I just made some, I think, final changes to a new map. First map uploaded in over a year. Oh, okay. How often have you mapped before? Like before the year. On and off? Okay. Okay. What is this what is something that draws you to mapping? Ability to show the song how you view it? That's great. That's a very, very endearing comment. I would love to do that too. I can resonate with that. I love to depict and express the song, right? Express the song the way I want to express it. The thing is, most of your stuff is pretty difficult. Fair enough. And usually not the generic map, but also not to the point of those very abstract ones. I see. Sounds like you're trying to narrow in your thing, yeah. It's an interesting thing to be able to do something or create something that's governed by difficulty, right? Some of the most brilliant and beautiful things are easy to understand, but incredibly transformative and difficult to pin down what it means. It's creative arts at its finest. As a creator myself, I suppose, like, I create things every once in a while. Generally, I create words, you know, like programs and stuff more. It's largely, the interesting thing is most of the things I tend to create are easy to understand from that person's perspective. And when I create something, I'm more interested in what people think I'm expressing, as opposed to specifically trying to achieve my own goal of expressing my own opinions. So like if I were to map something, I would love to see what people think I'm trying to tell them. And if they're very different, then I achieved my goal because I was very creative, right? If everyone thought the same thing about my piece, then it just means I'm an incredibly pragmatic person, someone who's very conformed to specific things. Well, I don't think necessarily feedback per se, but just comments. Like, looking for different things. Right. So if, like, someone can't relate to me, I want to know why they can't relate to me, or how they can't relate to me, kind of thing. Even a Malone's movement can be something that you could use. Absolutely. That also applies to learning things that you don't think are worth your time, because everything in your life is worth something if you can use it. You just gotta get creative with it. Kinda like every other time when you're thinking tapping stamina has to be 99% to indicate that. What about all the other times? What do they mean to you? All these things mean something to me. That varies. I can see that from your perspective. I can definitely tell a lot of things have it depends. For me, no questions. You can make everything. Like, it means something. At least it means something, right? And I imagine that's what you mean by it varies. It probably means something different and whatnot. Okay. Yeah, I'll save that. I'll save that. Probably not gonna break away from finishing this stuff, but I'll definitely give this a go in the... Yeah. I'll keep the tab open. I'll let you know. Another... there's a thing that I do here. The reason why I only use these things is because of copyright and DMCA and stuff. So, probably I'll do it afterwards and check it out. And I will write those remarks down in notes. You know, there's a lot of other things. The reason why I do it this way, because I don't know what the song is either. I'm not familiar with that song. If you're also curious why I'm not playing specific songs and whatnot, that's a thing too. Also, why I'm not like recording PP stuff or rank stuff. I do a lot of feature artist things, probably, and probably in the future. Yeah, probably. Again, sure. Again, I don't recognize that song, so it's whether it's if or not. Again, I haven't tested the song, so. And also, I didn't plan on doing that today. Or anything, really. I'm aware of how DMCA works, so yeah. Konami would be a big one. Usually it's Sony Entertainment America. Or Sony Entertainment Japan, and an extension, the US branch, SCEA. I live in the United States, so there are things I make sure. Have I ever tried an arcade? Yeah, that's kind of... I'm old enough where they're actually in the arcades, right? A lot of times. Some of the early rhythm games. I can't say I'm too great at them though. CDR would be the closest. I don't have too much competency in PDR. Nowadays it's like Groove. I think Groove is the arcade machine now. For like DDR replacements. I go to an anime convention, by the way. I volunteer and work at an anime convention each year called Otakon on the East Coast. And they have an arcade place, and they contract people to bring all the rhythm game stuff overseas there. So you have all the arcade machines there. So occasionally, you know, I touch them, watch them every once in a while. You have, like, you know, your washer machines, right? I don't know. I keep forgetting all their names, but that MAKU one, Taiko's, Taiko machines, the one where you turn the knob, I forgot what that's called either, and then the DJ ones, and then the cube one. I can only describe what their machine looks like, because I forget a lot of their names most of the time. This one is, it might be Beatmania. There are a lot of them, like a lot of versions. Like there are 3 different washing machine ones, not just my mind. Sound Vortex. That's one of them. One of them is Sound Vortex. The knob this way. There's one where the knob is in the middle, and then you play it on a track. Like, and it's a 3D like track. It kind of is like a fire, like of Ice and Fire thing. I'm not sure if it's DJ Max. It sounds more like a MAKU title. Not like, we're not talking about like Diva, not Project Diva, right? But it's kind of like Project Diva, only without MAKU in it. It's like some future thing. And then there's the whole floor panel ones, right? Not the Americanized ones like Just Dance and stuff, but the lots of dancing ones. And I don't know, but they have all different names, and the only one I can remember is something with groove in it. Beatmania and BMS. Unfortunately, I take a picture of all the cabinets, by the way. When I'm there, I go into the gaming room and I just take pictures of all the different things over time to see as they change. Yeah. I think the biggest arcade cabinet there was that came exclusively from Japan was the Gundam Arena Fighter one. Less so the rhythm section, but the Gundam Arena Fighter thing. Oops. Oh no, sorry, it's not a rhythm game. It's just an arena fighter. Yeah, no Gundam rhythm game. Just the most the Japanese among the Japanese cabinets. Sorry, I kind of took a leap there. Jubeat or Jubeat. Interesting. It would be great if I actually could read the cabinets' names, but I can't read the cabinets' names, so I would have to try to associate the shape of the cabinet with it. Oh, it is the cube one? Oh, that's what it's called. A Jubeat. Okay. I see. Yeah, with the 16 buttons. Yep. It's rare to see them on cons there. I see. Yeah, this is, by the way, I don't go around going to cons most of the time. I like volunteering at cons, and it's so one of the biggest in the United States. Especially on this side of the East Coast. Otakon is one of the biggest, and I work there. I volunteer there. Otakon is completely voluntary. Like most of the staff that's involved is volunteering. I like seeing people enjoying themselves. It's like very electric. I go there to work as hard as I can, because it's fun for me to work when it makes dreams come true. Most of the time, the things I talk about and the things I'm interested in is largely just to enable other people. I'm at a point in my life that if there's anything that will bring more reward selfishly to myself, like inwardly looking, it's probably raising a child. Probably the closest thing. Other than that, helping other children is a great example, you know? Teaching other younger adults and stuff. Getting them to, you know, love themselves as much as the stuff that people are telling them to do, right? That kind of thing. A really fun interpretation of this is if I am to become really good at this game, OS, I would be doing the exact opposite of what I intend to do by recording myself doing OS. Right? Because I would have to give up things that I focus on, which is how to overcome certain things, how to look at things differently. If I'm very good at OS, I would be doing something that wouldn't attract that type of discussion. If I'm very good at OS, I wouldn't practice any of these things either. I wouldn't need to do any of these things. I would share the same perspective that a good OS, a high-ranking OS player would have. And that would make me similar to everyone, which may or may not be a good thing. I have no desire to be that, so naturally, because of that, my whole perspective on life and recording and content creation makes it unlikely for me to be in a position that can relate to someone who, like for yourself, believe tapping stamina is represented by accuracy. Like I can appreciate that, as in how most of the OS community would actually be in line with you about that kind of idea. For me, it's not. Endurance is a component that I am fairly good at, and understanding endurance is not for the sake of accuracy. To train endurance, you do not have to be accurate. To train stamina, you do not have to be accurate. What is tapping stamina without good tapping? It's endurance. That's the word. Stamina is a component of endurance. it's more so in a component of endurance. For me, it's nothing. That's fair. One thing you trade off when endurance requires good accuracy, because tapping is the foundation of your skill set. That's fair. Here's one thing. As long as you're not interested in it, right? As long as you're not interested in it, what I'm gonna say is something you can appreciate without feeling emotionally attached to it. What makes the highest level, to me, the highest level skill set is creativity. And if you're focused on accuracy to redeem, like an objective metric to redeem the measure of your skill set, that glass ceiling you place on top of yourself will make you not a creative person. That's just it. What do you sacrifice for that? As a trade-off, your problem solving is going to be worse, right? It's under practice because you believe there's a right and wrong way to measure that, right? So those are the trade-offs you get. For me, the highest element is to be able to see something beyond something so stringent. If I drew something, in order for me to draw something incredibly wonderful, it doesn't have to be accurate. If you can't accept that you're not a good mechanical something, then you can't find value in it anywhere else. So for example, a jazz musician learned the ways of expressive improvisation, not necessarily because they weigh accuracy. This game, though, accuracy is fantastic. If you're playing by the ranking system, which I don't. So accuracy is nothing to me at the moment. It can become something. I'm willing to forsake good tapping for creative liberties. So I'm exploring other things because good tapping is not a restriction. What did I do here? Well, the moment I drop to 160, the tapping becomes decent. So what does that prevent me from doing? What does good tapping requirement prevent me from doing? A combination of the two. Safe smashing and finger dexterity. Tapping stamina, tapping with good tapping is dexterity. Tapping stamina without good tapping is endurance. And I combine both of them. While I'm smashing my way through this safely and rigorously, I drop down to focus on dexterity. So I'm doing both. That doesn't make me a specialist because I'm not focusing on a specific skill set or foundation, right? I have a larger foundation, but not a refined as refined as your foundation. It makes me more worldly. It makes you better at specific things. So it's a trade-off. You are either more worldly or you choose to focus your world. And I'm the latter. Or I'm the earlier. So I choose to be more worldly about the way I approach things. And then you choose to be better at the things you really want to. And that's the sacrifices, that's the compromise we make. And I love watching people like you and others really, that 99.91 act. It's glorious. I actually spend a lot of my time spectating and observing things that I don't usually do myself because it's awesome. I'm not going to experience it because I trade some of that stuff off for my perspective, right? It does it does make me appreciate it. It does allow me to give an opportunity to be surprised by the crazy accuracy that people have. Like I've been friends with this person, a specific person, for a really long time now, and he's like a human metronome, I tell you. But you know what? He also doesn't play an instrument. I play O's because I play an instrument, or I used to play an instrument. That's one of the big things. Not great at playing the instrument, just it is. I also play O's for music appreciation. Yeah, sometimes I get called a metronome by friends when I set some scores. That's great. Sounds like you know, that's kind of the idea, right? As long as you know that it's sustainable, right? As long as it keeps continuing to be something you can rely on, like your outlook on life or outlook on skill building and whatnot. The person I'm talking about does quite often struggle with skill building, and it does deal with a few things that you've already mentioned. So hopefully that's not the case for you as you get older. This person is about 5 years older than you. Because when you grow older, things get a lot messier. They become less clear. And there are different ways to cope with it, or take advantage of it, or use it. For me, there's nothing I can't write a story about, you know? Like our discussion here. Like, for example, today I didn't do the same thing I did 2 days ago, right? right? Today was here, down here, like right here. But what I can tell you is there's a story behind this. So when what someone sees as C, and what did I learn or gain from this, it means something different. It's always gonna go beyond what the surface level is. It's richer, it's more creative. It has a larger perspective. So like, if someone came in and see me smashing now, I'm perfectly okay with it. Because I know why I'm smashing, right? And why I'm rusty and why I'm cold. It's rich because I choose to do it. If I was focused on accuracy, I probably wouldn't have engaged in a long discussion. Or I wouldn't be a person who makes time to have a conversation with someone else. They would be very focused, you know? You gotta do your things. The only reason about the map thing is that is also something that I consider because I do YouTube stuff and Twitch stuff at the same time. So there's a lot of editing issues that could come up. So that's the only reason about the whole map thing. But it goes beyond just hosts and doing things on Twitch. It's just wider. Not particularly very specific. So if you start like, if someone comes up and explain to me, it take like 3 hours explaining to me what I'm doing right now, it's probably getting closer to what's going on in my head most of the time. However, when I'm streaming, it's not really about me, it's about the person I'm talking to. I'm largely farming for thoughts from other people. It's too long to spend talking about all the things that go on in my head. Like, that's why my videos are very long, my sessions are very long. I'm kind of digressing now because I'm at the end of the thing. All I wanted to do was get back down to 150 and fill it out. Today was okay. We took it a little bit easy because it's worth taking a little bit easy. But you know, 12 days. 12 days going from just barely reaching the end of 120 with our ring finger, right? 12 days ago. And then now. It's pretty okay. Pretty okay so far. So a lot of times when you're asking what you do, and your response about language, right? It doesn't matter. You just do it. That's largely more the rule than the exception for me. So if you think you're worried that mashing will create normalization of form breakdown, right? I absolutely know that is a concern. So if your goal is incredibly high act play, any deviation from that form is going to hamper your consistency. When you're asking someone like me what my opinions are, the answer is all of the above. In order to excel at something else, you must also do something else. The only way you establish the normalization is if you only do one thing. So here's the oxymoron. Here's the paradox in your thing. If you are consistently avoiding something, you are also under practice and unskilled in that. So one day, when your metric doesn't apply to something, you will have to learn a new thing from scratch, and it will become harder and harder and harder to learn and switch, because you don't include many things. The person I've been talking to for a while, we spend a lot of time exploring how to lower that barrier. That barrier that the person is constantly used to, having a rigid structure that prides on consistency. It doesn't translate very well to life skill building. It is one of the struggles when you get older. Things are become so complex that you have no longer clarity. And if you spend all your time doing a specific thing, you also have to prepare yourself and be ready to accept that in the future, everything else gets harder. So for me, I enjoy how to smash safely within a safely range, and enjoy the idea that I can move my fingers even without being accurate. And then also at the same time know when I can start to pay attention to my dexterity and work on form. So when I go running, I know when I can walk, and I also know when I can sprint out of control, or in a safe way, and then suddenly go back to jogging. My foundation is jogging. It's not walking. By the way, speed walking is a really, really interesting sport. I use my foundation, my jogging foundation, as a way to safely include everything else. So, contrast to my friends who do believe exactly what you believe, where they can't ever feel good about scoring less than a certain thing, or else it's worth nothing and all that. That intolerance comes from rigid structure. And I'm a fluid structure. I'm generally fluid. It's the reason why I love so many things other people do. If someone has a smile on their face and they're smashing to high heaven and they're not injuring themselves, it's absolutely beautiful. It's the greatest thing about humanity. You can find joy even in unsafe things, but the idea is it's joy. Is it sustainable? So while you are asking me a lot of times oh yeah, but you're afraid, you're just hoping to prevent me from smashing or learning, pulling away from smashing. I'm not pulling away from smashing. I'm deliberately and intentionally doing it in a safe and disciplined way. There's a really, really big gap between the ability to be disciplined in something you don't want to do and fear, and taking control of that fear, and even taking advantage of that fear, then letting that fear drive you from ever doing it in the first place. That's the fear that drives the internet a lot of times. When I learn the language, I don't worry about making mistakes. I might even intentionally make those mistakes and see how people respond. Comprehension is not necessary to just do something. Learning is a process that can come both intuitively through non-calculation, like when you're a kid, right? I want to be young. I want to be a mix of being young, take advantage of being young, or feeling young, and feeling old and mature. So for me, if you're asking me all the time, what do you do? The answer is as much as you can do. All of the above. Is smashing healthy if you have discipline? So it takes a lot of discipline to be consistent, right? But it is also takes a lot of discipline to be consistent about the inconsistent. Fear doesn't drive my decision making. It increases my adaptability. So one day when someone says, I don't know why, but I just keep smashing at this point. My fingers just go blah and it's smashing. Well, for someone like you, you would never be able to advise them ever again because you don't do it. For me, my purpose is I do it with discipline, try to understand it, so that one day when someone has that problem or have that feeling, I can relate to them or tell them about it. Much like learning a second language. I'm going to try to learn a second language. It might not be English, but I can certainly use it as a way to try to get closer to people who learn as a second language. I haven't learned a second language in so long since college that I've forgotten how to relate to people who don't have English as a first language. So that's kind of one of the things about high skill cap or becoming an expert. You become less and less charismatic. You sacrifice charisma. You sacrifice communication. So it's a one-way exchange most of the time. I believe that the OS community is filled with more brilliant, consistent, habit-forming players than a lot of other games, or like because of its self-selection mechanics. However, they will also inherit lots of problem-solving difficulties. It's connected. When you become rigid, a ranking system tells you and dictates the things you work towards. It makes you less and less tolerant of anything that goes against that ranking system, or any system in general. This applies to life skills and whatnot. So you become less and less of a leader, or less and less of an innovator or a creator. You follow rules, and your emotions become tied to those rules. Some of my favorite moments is when I get a 77% and I was able to move my finger through the entire process. Sometimes it's really great to get a 99.9% when I'm on form. The idea is I will generally always like more things than the more rigid person. It's not necessary for happiness as long as you can sustain it. For me, statistically, I am likely to find more things that make me happier in life than other people. But you can make it work. That's what I'm saying. So what I made that works for me, you can make your thing work for you. When it doesn't, if it doesn't, it's always nice to have someone else who has a different perspective, so perhaps you can adopt some of them. And then if someone is like, so at my end, a good example of an extreme case is they don't know what they're doing. They're like, they love everything, they can't seem to focus on anything. Then you come along and you have that opposing perspective that can give someone like that clarity. So I'm in between. I'm the old guy that have taken what I think is useful from a rigid perspective, like when I used to play StarCraft and stuff, and then also take the artsy fartsy, like creative people who just, I use the phrase flow state from someone else, but it's a flow state. Things just flow out of them, and it has incredible like noise and fluidity and inconsistency, but it's beautiful, right? It's organized chaos, and I've learned to embrace that. I'm actually closer to you when I was 18 years old. That's how I connected with this other person who's been my friend for a while now. We connected because when I was younger, I was most definitely that 99.91%. Actually, I was that guy that always gets A's and 4.0s. And nothing else is acceptable. And if I lose points, I'll fight for those points. Now if I take an exam and get an 85, I can explain why I got that 85. Regardless if I didn't get a 99.9, I can explain it. And what can I learn from explaining it? The assurance that I understand the value of that 85 and how I would be able to improve or choose to improve upon that. If you never get an 85, you would never know that. That's kind of the thing, right? It's making you worse and worse at learning new things because your tolerance level has gone down and down. So one day when you have to start something new, it's going to get harder and harder to start new things. One of the comments that happen a lot when it comes to habit formation with games like this is, why can't this game just feel like OS? It's like, well, you can't possibly, nothing can possibly feel like OS anymore. You spent 5+ years on this game. When you start anew, nothing starts at 5+ years. The longer you continue to use that as a frame of mind, the harder and harder it's going to take. And that is the adult problem. That is the thing that most people think about when they say it's so much easier for kids to pick up new things. Because kids haven't had like 10 years of education. Kids haven't been riding bicycles for 9 years and then having to change their mind. They are too young to frequently have a skill set they devoted so much time to. And I can tell you for sure, on YouTube, when you see some guy who's been like doing this job for like 30 years, it shows. It's incredible. And my only thought in my mind is, I hope this person is healthy and happy. That one skill set, that narrow skill set, provides all the happiness that is necessary for that person. For those who are suffering and in that situation, it feels like the world is falling apart. And that's where I come in. I love to look at these things and try to encourage and get the person out of those things. I'm really attracted. Like, I'm attracted to solving people's problem of that nature. I love solving problems. And if I ever think about solving a problem as being really, really good at one skill set, I'm failing my job. Or I'm failing my calling. The last thing a therapist or anybody who's offering you support is going to tell you is to get better and get good at the thing. They're doing you a disservice. They're literally reinforcing your misery. So when that time comes, I'm usually at the opposite end. I'm usually that guy that says, you know, OSU isn't the world. You can use OS to make life even better. Never been to a therapist, so don't know. That's fair. It could be a friend. It could be a motivation. For example, when you hit an obstacle, it does sound like me that you haven't hit too many obstacles that are like life-changing. But one of the earliest life tackles is you can't make money off the thing you're really good at. Right? That's the first thing. It's like, well, this is what I do. Why can't people just acknowledge that I'm really good at this? I spend so much time. I want to make my dreams come true and make this. It's like, well, you can, technically, but not only you. You need more skills than just the things related to that. You're gonna have to go left field, take this, and then you can prop up your dream to make it possible. First thing, it's one of the biggest life obstacles for a transitioning adult. The moment you leave the nest, or the moment you're leaving the nest comes, like, it's coming, that's when anxiety and other pressures come into play. And as an adult and an educator, I always dreamed, which I'm not, to be that person that offers the advisory advice, like the advice, right? I work at a university. teach freshmen and sophomore, like first year and second years, and that's the first question. That's the first thing, well, many of the first things, but that's one of the most consistent things that come up in their first year. They will realize, many of them will realize that they do not have, they hit an early roadblock and they start to question their resolve and conviction. And to me, being the person who has more experience, hope that one day I don't get so stuck up in my head that I can't help them with either mashing their way through and then ultimately becoming an expert, you know, in a safe way because I'm the regulator, or telling them to seek a different path, maybe a related path, or just take that experience and go in an entirely different direction. And that is largely always, generally, quote in quotes, always my intent when I'm discussing with someone. It can be sometimes very emotional, it can be very frictiony, or it can just be very chill and vibe. The goal, in my opinion, is always sharing ideas. I'm always taking ideas from the person I'm talking about and turning them into stories. And then I'm offering my stories, which I actually took from others, including myself, to share with that other person. So today, the things we discuss about, you can bet any amount of money that this will be a future story that I tell, or like a thing I would use. Like you know, the inspiration that comes from discussion will forever be cemented into it. The stories that I'm telling about this particular person, they're a close friend of mine now. They're 3 to 4 years ago, we met playing OS. Like when I was playing OS, and all those things come back, they become important, and they don't ever leave. Even if I'm not playing OS anymore, the story lives on. Those experiences will continue to be changing and being useful. So that's kind of the idea of what I mean when I say I'm not sure if people know why I'm doing this or why I'm practicing this stuff. It's very obvious to someone how I'm doing it, like what's happening on screen. As someone who is creative, it's so much deeper than that. For better or for worse. Sometimes most people don't stay for that. And when some other people do, you're forever. You're gonna be a forever part of one of my stories that I'll share. Obviously, it's neutral because that story that I share that involves other people, it can mean different things to other people. Earlier, I already referenced that 3 days ago, I encountered someone else who had a very different perspective on improving on OS. And they are first year. They just completed their first year at university, right? And then another person who just is about to graduate high school. So the two of them are part of what I'm saying exactly now, because I'm using them. They were willing to share with me. It was day 9, right? And it's recorded, right? The conversation is recorded, and I remember these details. And they have a very different outlook, but they both play OS, and that's why it's so much fun, at least to me. It's fun after the fact. I more look for fondness. So fun and fondness kind of goes hand in hand sometimes, but a lot of things I'm fond of or treasure or find rewarding, it's rarely ever fun. Like, it's not prioritizing fun. Fun may come after or during. I mean, a lot of times it's terror. Like, when I do something and I feel terror, it's still something I look for. Sometimes I actually look to be insecure because it's been a very long time. So like I'm looking for someone to make me nervous and feel speechless and stuff. It's fun. Like if someone can take my breath away and render me speechless, that's really exciting because it doesn't happen to me very often. And I look forward to that. So sometimes terror is empowering. When you a lot of settled adults, like really settled down, they are so addicted to their routine that it can be really difficult to do anything new ever again. It's always just slightly out of reach. Like, I'm only gonna, you know what? I'm going to have a sandwich. And then tomorrow I'm gonna have the same sandwich, but I'm gonna add cheese to it. That kind of thing. And I'm trying to stay as young as possible because the people I'm interacting with that I care a lot about, because sometimes they don't have the experience necessary. I need to stay young. I need to do things that they do, still participate in mistakes that they make in order to be able to solve those problems in a safe way. So I can choose when to make mistakes within a given safety. So for example, pardon me, my Japanese is not very good. I just wanted to warn you. Here we go. I'm just gonna full blitz and say a Japanese phrase. You can say whatever you want. Like, please give me some feedback. That's different from a kid learning a phrase and then just blurting it out. However, it's the closest thing I have to safely making those mistakes. So as an adult, you have the ability to empathize and explain things. And when you can explain things, you can make mistakes openly, safely. Am I hurting my hand and creating bad habits by smashing through 171 and 180? No, I'm not. I'm not, because I don't let it happen long enough. But I have to know what it's like, because I know I see it a lot. And the common advice you would give is, oh yeah, you know, lower it down to where you can and then do the form. Does it really work? It most definitely does work. I got one better. When you progressively overload and combine it with the training regimen of being form accurate, you train endurance while you're not training dexterity. And then at the medium, you train dexterity and endurance at the same time. And at the low end, you only train dexterity and do not gain endurance. So what happens is it's a melding. So now not only can you instruct someone who is smashing to gain more discipline, you can also instruct someone who's incredibly consistent to take a disciplined approach to gaining speed. So the thing often is on the other end for consistency player accuracy is that if it's always 99.9%, the reality of human improvement is that as you're pushing the limits of dropping your AC, you are also gaining another property that you have not trained in a long time. So you can safely push that. And this person that I know, low key, is a 3-digit who have changed up his regimen, where he has slowly expanded his tolerance in a safe way while still maintaining his 99.93 principles. But he's safely extending and expanding past that tolerance. Regrettably, that's still within the scope of OS, right? So it doesn't translate very well to how does he improve eating? How does he improve his sleeping habits? That also impacts his OS gameplay over time. And we explore that all the time. And I do it indirectly. I tell him, you know, I do this sometimes. It's like, no, doesn't work. Or like, you're not vibing with it? Fine. I'll just keep digging. I'll continue to like ask other people, like you, for example, what you did. Then I would like share your story with that person, right? Share your stories about how they come about it. And one day, maybe one of those ideas will sit. And when those ideas sit, I succeeded. It's an ever complex, complicated task. It's one of the most challenging things in life is to sway and help another human being. And it's a challenge I don't get to choose technically because most of those people approach me with them. I don't get to control what people think or will do technically or how they receive the information. It doesn't stop me from trying over and over again. And what do I get from that? I'll continue to be bigger, more inclusive, and skilled over and over again. It's not consistent in anything. It's only consistent in the idea that I'm collecting experience. So in the future, I would love to think that I could walk into a room where I see struggling people who aren't necessarily struggling like in resource or anything, just struggling to be motivated, struggling to smile. Because when I was young, when I graduated from high school, there is a literal event in college that someone said that absolutely floored me when I was in college. And this idea is I seem happier suddenly one day. And I was wondering what happened there. So now I'm always constantly in this 18, 19-year-old space where I want to be a person like that. The person who caused someone to have a transformation in his life. And I really loved all the people, most of the people of them are still my best friends today. And I don't really talk to my advisor anymore in college, but one time we met, I tried my best to express it. I mean, I was not very expressive back then, but I tried my best to express how much I owe him, right? He didn't do, like, I imagine he'll think something like, I didn't do much. I did my job. I did my best. And like, that's all that matters. That's the best thing. And what am I gonna do? Just gonna try my best. It's not achievable. Like, there's no way it's achievable. You can't help everyone. You can't say the perfect things. It's completely undefined. It's incredibly nebulous. And that's the thing I live for. So, how do I make myself happy? Well, I spend most of my time trying to make other people happy. If I can make anyone happy, I can most certainly make myself happy. It's tough. But what's beyond yourself? Every other human being on this planet. If it's just one human being, that's fine. Like, I sometimes do... Mind you, I still experience envy and jealousy and all that because I'm human. I am envious of individuals who know how to make money and use that money to at least bring some sunshine to hundreds of thousands of people. Absolutely. There's great envy in that. However, what I can't do is scale up the skill I want. The skill that I want is not very scalable. So I'm terrible at making money because I'm willing to give up that for moments like these. So you have to excuse me. Oh no, yeah. I was being presumptuous, but I imagine you were overseas, right? At least 6 hours apart. Or actually not even 6 hours apart. Yeah, 6 hours apart. So like somewhere in the same time zone as Germany or something. It happens a lot of times on these. And OS, for whatever reason, in this time frame, it is that too. So absolutely. It was a pleasure. I really appreciate it. I hope you come back with some stories of your own. Like, I would love to hear those stories. So like I imagine you're about to graduate high school. Or have already graduated high school, depending on where you are, or maybe have another year. Yeah, it could be a month, it could be a year, it could be 3 years down the line. Write those stories, and I want to hear about them. You are free to flex your life, at least to me, because that's what I'm here for. I love to hear when people are so excited and happy about their lives, or willing to share an opinion that may come under scrutiny. I mean, I am very argumentative too. Alright? So take care. Enjoy. Thanks for sharing. Always. Sleep well and good luck. Alright, we're ending this. Coffers, don't give me that. Don't give me that old stuff. Wait, is that the old emote? Hold up. That is the old emote. Alright, we didn't get, you know, we tried today. We got distracted and it's all worth it. It's all there. We got in our volume today. So we did do all our tapping volume, so it's all good. And we did our tapping volume today. That's what we got. We got a good video out of it too. So a good wholesome message out there. It's probably that last wholesome message is, I don't know how I'm gonna edit that last wholesome message in. But anyways, we're gonna say goodbye to OS for today, day 12. And then we're gonna go and do some combo gaming, and I'm scared. I'm really scared. I'm scared and excited. Alright. See you next time.
See you next time.